this rather snappy, won't you? I have some very heavy thinking to do before 10 o'clock.
Welcome to Get It Right Texoma with the trio, Mike, Terry, Trey. How is everybody?
Good.
Well, our way through a new year here. We once again getting together to inform and entertain you and maybe educate you a little bit on some things, but we're going to talk about a lot of local things around the area. We're kind of last time we were kind of recapping the year. We're going to do that again now.
We got to finish up we're going to do the second half of the year.
The second half of 2024, and boy, there was a lot to talk about. But anyway, welcome to the program. We're glad to have you here. Thank you for joining us. If you're joining us on YouTube, if you're watching, obviously you're on YouTube. Be sure to hit the subscribe button on YouTube and check the alerts button as well. And then if you get us some other way, be sure and share it on your social media: Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, Twitter, whatever you got. Share it with everybody that you know.
Share it.
That's a big thing. Sharing is caring.
Yes.
That's right. Sharing is caring.
Don't you feel so good? Oh.
Gosh, if only we had Barney the dinosaur behind us to dance. Anyway, I don't know where that came from. I'm having flashbacks of my children's childhood.
I just was worried about having flashbacks of Mike having Barney the dinosaur behind him. I don't know what's going on.
Oh, you just got to make it weird. Okay, anyway.
You said it.
Not weird if you don't make it weird.
Yeah.
Weird. Okay.
Okay, where were we?
Local restaurant.
Oh, yes, our local restaurant focus. So each show we try to hone in and focus and talk about a locally owned and usually family-owned restaurant operation here in the Wichita Falls area. And this week, this episode, we're talking about Hunan's Chinese Restaurant.
Mm-hmm. You can eat.
Chinese, yes.
As an option.
Yes, Chinese buffet.
But they also just have the menu items.
Right.
You can go in and order off the menu or take out there.
Yeah, well, it is really a pretty good buffet, let me tell you.
Buffet.
Oh, man, it is something else. I don't know how long they've been around.
A long time. They've remodeled.
Yeah.
So they're on Maplewood. And they've had different locations, but they've been on their Maplewood location for a number of years.
Yes, they had one out by Shepherd Air Force Base for a short while.
Well, it was actually there about 6 or 7 years.
Yeah.
And it's changed hands. And Barbaritas was out there after that. Now Barbaritas has moved over on the south side of town. So,
yeah.
But yeah, Hunan's is on Maplewood, the corner of Maplewood and is it Mallard?
It might be Mallard.
Maplewood, 4516 Maplewood, and it doesn't actually give the cross
There's a
street, but
Domino's
yes.
Pizza.
Right.
It's
right across
Maple
yep.
or whatever that side street is from Domino's Pizza. There.
And you got to, if you're coming from Southwest Parkway,
sorry about that.
it's hard to get to it unless you go one step early.
Yeah, you need to go. Yeah, if you're coming down Maplewood from Midwestern Parkway, it's easy. It's right there. You turn there. But yeah, if you're going down Southwest Parkway and you're coming from Southwest Parkway, if you see where the Hunan's is, turn on that street before,
right? That
and just make the little loop there,
and then it goes up near Samurai
Tokyo,
and now the Nick Hall's and their little coffee shop, and
exactly.
then boom, yep.
So we're trying to give you directions on how to get there, but the point is they have good food. Yeah. And it's consistent. It's reliable. You know what you're getting.
Oh yeah.
And if you like Chinese food, I think it's a real good Chinese food, either buffet or takeout. And their takeout is good too.
Yeah, they've got a whole website, but it is just to be picky. It's Hunan. We refer to it as Hunan's, right? Just as a common thing, but it is Hunan.
Okay.
Just
no S.
No S. But hey, but I bet you they'd still take care of you.
Yeah, I bet you if you wrote a check and put Hunan's, it would probably
it'd be all right. Yeah.
But they've been around for a long time, so go check them out. Hunan Chinese Restaurant.
They do. I always I've never ordered online with them. I've always called and said, hey, can I get this, and this? Well, when you go to pick it up, it always feels it's like, man, you get a lot in here.
Yeah, you're absolutely true. Yeah, you're right. It was $23, and you'd get like 3 sacks of food. You're like, dang. There's a lot of rice there too, but
a lot of food.
Yeah, but it's good, and their sweet and sour chicken is really good. Mm-hmm. Their fried rice is good. Mm-hmm. So check them out. Yeah. Hunan Chinese Restaurant.
I like it. Kind of a surprise thing on the political scene here. Justin Trudeau Prime Minister of Canada has resigned.
Yeah.
Just
He got pissed that Trump was suggesting that they become the 51st state.
this is what I don't understand.
He's lost a lot of support. I think that there's this phase of these liberals all over the world are getting ousted and things like that. These ultra liberals.
The far leftism.
That's a better word. I should not use the word liberal. The leftists.
Leftism and they truly are the fascists. Let me tell you.
Well, look at what they've done with the lockdowns. Look at what Trudeau did with the truckers when the Canadian truckers went on strike.
Yeah,
to freeze people's bank accounts.
Yes, yeah,
that's beyond the pale.
Yeah, it really is. So he got pushed out. But I think Trump kind of trolling him a little bit. About the whole. Oh, we'll make you the 51st state. You can be the governor of the 51st state. Whatever. Kind of like with the whole the other day we're going to change the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America.
Yeah,
he's trolling people.
Yeah,
we're taking over Greenland. We're going to invade.
Yeah. We're not going to invade anybody.
No.
Now, would we possibly look at acquiring Greenland and buying Greenland? There's some strategic. There's some actually some strategic stuff there. Or going to the Greenland government and say we'd like to buy 5,000 acres or whatever it is here and put a military base here. That's a possibility.
Well, don't we already have military bases, don't we?
I think there is a base in Greenland already.
I thought.
I don't know if is it a naval base or an Air Force base.
I think it's an Air Force base.
They might want to put a naval base here. I don't know.
Well, I know there was one there 70 years ago or 60 years ago, and I know this because I have a Zippo cigarette lighter that my mom had, and it was. Is it Thule? Thule, is that how you say it?
Thule, Thule.
Yeah, Thule, Greenland. And it was a gift that was given to some airman or officer or something. And it was left at a place where my mother was working.
And so she ended up acquiring it.
And she ended up acquiring it because I couldn't find the owner. It didn't have a name engraved on it. It just had a kind of a thank you message on the back of it.
Space base?
That's what used to be Thule, known as Thule. Yeah, it's the Patufic Space Base Greenland is part. It's
so from what I've heard,
part of the Department of Space Force, I guess.
Yes, Greenland apparently has some degree of rare earth metals that they can mine there. That right now China controls most of the rare earth metals supply in the world,
right?
And so that I think is where the strategic approach to this is.
Well, and also shipping lanes. Yeah. The shipping lanes are opening up with the polar ice caps melting a little bit. Mm-hmm. There's more shipping lanes that are opening up in those areas. Mm-hmm. And so, you want to be sure that China and Russia can't necessarily control those shipping lanes. So there could be some of that there. But back to Trudeau.
Yeah.
I've heard rumors for years.
Yeah.
And I don't know, but he does look a lot like Fidel Castro. Like he could be a Fidel Castro's kid.
Okay.
Look at him in the face.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah,
pull it up. There's been rumors for years that Trudeau's mother and Fidel Castro were very, very close.
Oh.
Look at him.
Okay.
The beard on. With the beard on? Yeah.
Okay.
And show Fidel Castro, early Fidel Castro, not Fidel Castro at 85 years old.
Now, hang on. Let me flip over. I want to show that picture.
Well, hang on. Let me. Okay. Yeah. Here. We'll pull. Let's see if I can get to the. There we go. There's a.
I'm not saying it. All I'm saying is I never
paywall
thought that, but when I hit that, I was like, man. Well, there you got a picture of it right there.
Yeah. Okay.
But
yes. Go ahead.
The bearded Trudeau.
The bearded one.
Hit 4. Oh,
I did.
He's there.
It's not. Oh, yeah, there it is.
Upper right-hand corner or a left-hand corner. Okay, now pull up Fidel Castro at 30 years old.
Well, I was going to do Fidel Castro, maybe that's his death, but father.
Well,
conspiracy, there.
All I'm saying is there is some resemblance there. That's all I'm saying. Because at first I didn't really see that until he got the beard. But once he got the beard, there is a resemblance there, and it could be completely coincidental, but there is a connection. Look at that.
There's Fidel.
I'm telling you.
Okay, well,
they're not far.
That is a little creepy. I had never considered that before.
Hold on. I'm gonna bring. Let's see, images. I'll bring up. Let's see.
Well, there's a side by side.
Oh.
Well, yeah, but this guy's got a cigar, he's got a big beard.
Here's another one.
Once again, he's 95
Yeah,
years old.
he's too old. Here we go.
Look at that.
Now that, yeah. So this is
Schneike's Batman.
Times of India. That's a video and then there's even this. A split face.
Oh, will it let you open that up bigger?
Yeah, there it is.
I'm just telling you, I don't know that he is obviously Fidel Castro's kid, and it really doesn't matter one way or another. I just think it's interesting. But there was a connection between his mother and Fidel Castro. So it's not like if somebody said, he could be Fidel Castro's kid.
It's plausible.
And Fidel Castro and his mother never met. Well, obviously they can't. Immaculate conception. Trudeau is not second coming of Jesus Christ. It wasn't immaculate conception. No, but
think of himself that way. I don't know. But
anyhow, I just thought that was interesting.
Well, Trudeau has resigned.
Au revoir, Trudeau.
Yeah. Well, don't worry. He'll pop up somewhere else, and might be
go on the speaking tour and make millions of dollars.
Yeah. Write a book, and
that's what I'm saying. And start doing public engagements and stuff like that. I just hope that we get somebody more sensible in Canada as their new prime minister, because Canada is very important. I mean, it's our number one trading partner. Sure. They're right there. Mm-hmm. I mean, Canada is a very important partner with America, with the United States. So
maple syrup.
That's it.
Well, what else do you need? Maple syrup. Canada, maple syrup. Let's do it.
We have some maple syrup in Texas.
I just don't know if we have enough. Right? Vermont. That's what concerns me.
Oh yeah, you go to Vermont.
Rare earth minerals and maple syrup.
There you go.
What people don't realize is the natural resources that Canada does have. Canada's a massive place.
Oh, it is. Oh, yeah.
It's huge. Yeah. It's not now. There's not a ton of people there because a lot of it's uninhabitable.
Right.
But Canada is a massive country.
It is. And, I don't know, maybe we could have had it at one time. Maybe we could have taken them at one time.
I will tell you the War of 1812, because I've traveled in Canada before, they take, from a historical standpoint, we don't really talk about the War of 1812 very much here. It was very personal to the Canadians. And the Americans kind of took their aggression out on a lot of, I think, of course, this is more the Canadian history. I don't know how true it was, but I think that there was some pretty bitter attacks of the Americans to the Canadians.
Yeah.
Because during the War of 1812, because we couldn't sail over to England and fight them on their land. So we'll kick your guys' ass that are your colonists are over here. We'll kick their ass because they're on the same continent. Remember, the War of 1812 was when the English burned down the White House.
Yes.
That was a significant war. It's just that we had the Revolutionary War and then we had the Civil War, and those take up so much oxygen out of the room. The War of 1812 almost kind of becomes almost like a forgotten war, but it was a big deal to those people at that time.
I've never understood why so many Americans have such an obsession with the royal family of England. There's almost, I know some people, women I've met over the years, that are just, and a lot of it goes back to Charles and Diana, and that was sort of almost like a Ken and Barbie kind of thing, But but I've never understood why we have such an obsession with the royal family of England. It's like we fought a war to get away from those. Yeah,
people. I think it's a pretty small percentage, but they're loud. It's kind of one of those. They're relatively loud. But I do think there is some, and I don't know what the allure is. Now, I will say I did not like the way that the royal family got trashed publicly, because they're the heads of state from some of the people that were in their family that were just making stuff up. Meghan Markle, for instance.
Oh yeah.
They didn't. The Queen did not deserve that.
No.
Yeah. No. Diana. I was not a big Diana fan. I think Diana did some really good things in her life, but towards the end of her life, when she started cheating publicly on Charles and started trashing the royal family, stuff like that, I didn't think that was. Didn't think it was a good look.
Well, apparently, that was a two-way street with Charles and.
Oh, I'm sure it was. Yeah, but he didn't come out and publicly trash her.
No,
that I'm aware of. So anyhow, doesn't matter.
Anyway, okay. Top stories of 2024, second half of the year. Let's continue with this. June, we had the CNN debate.
The debate.
And oh, how embarrassing that was.
This was the world's exposure and realization of what the three of us have been saying for years.
Yes.
Joe Biden's obvious cognitive decline.
Yes.
And the curtain was pulled back for everybody to see. And everybody saw it in June, and literally the world changed. The political landscape of America changed that night.
And once that happened, there was no way to unwind that clock.
No.
Absolutely no way to unwind that clock. It was just, it was, I watched every second of that debate that night. Mm-hmm. And 1/3 of the way into it, I said out loud, he's done.
Oh, sure.
He's done. He's officially toast tonight.
There was a point when Trump looked over and said, I don't know what he just said.
Nobody did.
And he was right. I mean, it was, to me, it wasn't funny. It was sad. When you see somebody who is struggling mentally, and I have empathy. I don't think it's ha-ha. I think it's sad. And then my sadness turns to a little bit of anger. Why is his family letting him do this?
Well, if it was
where is his family?
If it was your mom or dad or grandma or grandpa or yours or mine, we wouldn't put them in a situation publicly to be embarrassed like that.
No.
We would not put them in a what is essentially a compromising situation.
You wouldn't do it at church. You damn sure wouldn't do it for the world to see.
No, but I think it goes back to the hunger for power that the family has, their desire to hold on to that, but also the Democratic Party.
Oh, yeah. They thought they could pull this Roos over on the American public.
They thought they could. It backfired in grand fashion that night. And then once it did, they had no choice but to start to admit, okay, there's a problem here. And Kamala Harris apparently became the obvious immediate replacement.
Yeah, that's the next month. Yeah,
you know,
took them that long.
Yeah, but it was that was sad. And like I said, my dismay. It wasn't surprising. I mean, we knew all this. Right. We knew this was coming.
Yeah.
But my dismay and then my anger towards that family. It's like, why are you treating your family member, somebody you supposedly love and care about, and really should protect when they're vulnerable, this way? And it's all because, like you said, power and money. They're all sucking off the government teat. Joe Biden was the cash cow of that family.
Totally.
He was the only one bringing really cash. Hunter Biden would be some junky loser somewhere that had never made a nickel, probably, if it had not been his last name and not been for Biden.
Yeah,
exactly.
Well, just a story that obviously from CNN after it happened is interesting just to look at. That they even pointed out, Biden's age problem just got a lot worse, and Trump pulls some of his punches with that. So he held back. He did. He showed a little compassion.
That was the first time also that I saw, and I was actually same night. I said, I appreciate what Trump did tonight, because Trump could have gone hard in the paint, and he didn't. And that's the first time I've ever seen Trump pull back. Yeah. And I think it was the right move for him to pull back.
Yeah.
So anyhow.
Okay. All right. We had the Summer Olympics in Paris, which I'll admit I didn't watch 1 minute of.
I watched a bunch of it.
I didn't. The opening ceremony. We were talking about another restaurant earlier, the pizza place over in Parker Square.
Oh, yes.
Progressive Pizza. We were sitting at Progressive Pizza having dinner. It was me, my wife, my daughter, and my grandchildren. And we're sitting there having dinner, and the opening ceremony is on. Mm-hmm. And I'm looking at this and going, what exactly am I looking at here?
Yeah. Is this the one with the Last Supper thing?
Yeah, okay. I never even watched that. I care about the games. I was like, about the ceremonies.
What are you doing?
Yeah.
And that, for me, that was enough of a turnoff right there. I was like, I don't even want to watch any more of this.
Yeah, the thing I like about the Olympics is it's the best of our mostly amateur athletes.
And we did have a local athlete that was there.
That's right.
Yeah.
Who worked very hard. Talia Brooks was there. Who worked very hard their whole lives to get to that point, and they are competing on the grandest stage of the world, and they're representing the United States. I got USA all over them. Yeah. I love the Olympics for that reason. Yeah. The patriotism of the Olympics, that's what I love. I don't care about the opening ceremony. I don't care about the closing ceremony. And I don't watch everything. I don't like gymnastics, but I do watch a lot of track and field.
Yeah.
I'll watch fencing. I'll watch some of the judo stuff. I do watch the wrestling. I watch a little boxing. So, yeah, I'm an Olympics guy.
Claudia Sheinbaum wins Mexico's presidential election in a landslide, becoming the first female president in the country's 200-year history. And I'm thinking the same. Sheinbaum?
Yeah, that's not usually a Hispanic name.
Doesn't sound very Latin to me.
Yeah,
Here.
Of course, it's like anything else. I mean, there's a lot of diversity, and there actually is a lot of diversity in Mexico. There's, you have lily white people. There's villages in Mexico with lily white people still speak German.
Yeah.
And things like that. So there's a lot of diversity. Mexico's another one. It's a big country.
Well, we haven't heard a lot about her recently.
She was pretty liberal. She kind of made a splash, but it seems like a lot of that has died down.
So she hasn't really made a lot of headlines here in the U.S.,
Right.
but arguably we've had a lot of other things going on too. And so the newswire, if she's done anything outstanding, in the last 6 months, she probably hasn't gotten a lot of attention over here.
Yeah, we'll see how she works with Trump when it comes to things.
We'll see.
We honestly, what we got to do in Mexico, what Mexico needs, and I'm all for the United States helping on this. Mexico needs a middle class. They have some really rich people, and they got a lot of really poor people.
Yes.
And they don't have much of a middle class there. Now, it is growing a little bit because there are some factories that are opening up there. I know in the power sports business, there's a couple of Can-Am has a factory there, Polaris has a factory there. Yeah. So if we could bring a lot of our manufacturing that is in the Middle East, in China or the Orient, and bring it over to Mexico, I'm a firm believer in that. Grow that Mexican middle class. It'll help immigration. It'll help so many things. And like, for instance, I've got a friend who has worked for me for a long time, and he's a super good guy. And it makes me sad. It made me very sad that he left. He would have to leave his family to come to America and work at two places, my store and another place, and he could make more money, much more money than he could working in Mexico. And he was a road builder. Mm-hmm. His job was to build roads. You live in America and you're a road builder. That's a pretty good job.
Yeah.
You're going to make good money. Yeah. But it's because they have no middle class. So whatever geopolitical things or whatever military pressures we need to do, we need to help Mexico grow their middle class. It'll be better for everybody. It'll be better for the North American continent because Mexico is great people for the most part. There's bad people everywhere.
Sure.
But you have generally very family-oriented people, very hardworking people, very down-to-earth people. Mexico is full of great people and full of great culture, and they've got the best damn food in the world, in my opinion. So if we can help if we as America can help Mexico grow their middle class, they would turn into a better strategic part than they are now.
Well, a lot of that's going to depend on the government of Mexico finally tackling corruption within their own rights.
That's the biggest thing. You're absolutely right.
They're going to have to tackle.
And that's almost why I wonder if we need to use some military work on that.
It's been threatened.
Yeah, we've talked about this we've talked about this on the radio where I did a little bit of background on Mexico and the terrain itself is such that it's just not impossible, but nearly impossible, especially with their economy now. May not be able to afford having a police force out in those rural areas that are very difficult to, and that's where the cartel is able
I would
to
rather commit American troops to doing some of that. But hell, we're committing them to Afghanistan, and their terrain's not worse than Afghanistan.
Nope, they're not.
I'm sorry. I'm for that. If that would help, and now it would be the Mexican government would have to kind of swallow their pride a little bit on this one. But if we could convince them that in the end we really want to help you, we want your country to be better.
Yeah.
And I truly believe that. I think most Americans want Mexico to be better, be a better country, and better for the people there.
But we could train. I mean, it'd take a while, but we could train their troops, and I'd rather that money go to Mexico than to some of the
Afghanistan.
other
And we did that. We had troops in Afghanistan. A guy that Mike and I went to high school with died in the early days of Afghanistan, and he was over there training Afghan troops.
Yeah, well, and that's why, like I said, I'd rather us do that here because we're going to see a much. Plus, we have a lot more direct supervision over.
Well, it's
over
right
this,
there, and it's from a national security standpoint. What's more important? Something that happens in Afghanistan, which is important. I'm not saying it, or something that happens on your doorstep.
Yeah.
And we've talked about all of the millions and millions of people that have flooded across the borders. If Mexico, the country of Mexico, not the people, the country of Mexico can get their crap together and solidify their borders and have a good middle class here where people don't want to necessarily come to America to make money because they can't make money at home and live with their families, then it'll be better for everybody. So
we'll see how that plays.
She's got a degree. She's got a PhD in engineering, in energy engineering. Wow. Okay.
Right.
So anyway, maybe she's smart enough to make it happen.
July was a very, very busy month. We had the assassination attempt on Donald Trump, where he, by a nanosecond of a head turn, missed getting shot in the head.
Well, he was shot in the head.
He was shot.
It just didn't penetrate his head. It got his ear. But your ear's hard part of your head.
You go back, you watch the video. If he had not turned his head to the right slightly, at the moment that shot was fired, we would not be talking about President-elect Donald Trump.
It had gone straight into his head. There's no doubt about it.
No question about that.
And the joke he made was this chart when he was at the Republican National Good. This chart saved my life.
Yeah. Well,
and I think that changed things on so many levels. Donald Trump.
Do you think it solidified his election bid?
I think it was a massive part of it.
Yeah,
I think
it did a lot.
And let me tell you something. You could like Trump, not like Trump. I'm not a big fan of him personally on a lot of different levels. But when he stood up, that guy just got shot in the head. Okay? So if you've never been shot or never been shot at for real and realize that you were just a nanosecond away from dying, you don't understand what it's like. Unless you've literally faced certain death.
Yeah.
And you come through it. And for him to go down on the ground and then come back up and go fight, that guy's got balls. That is a tough dude.
And we're not talking about a young man here. We're talking about a guy who's 78.
Yeah. He wasn't jumping up trying to get into a fist fight. But he was just his adrenaline. Yeah, you're right. That guy is a fighter. And that was that image of him holding this fist up with blood going down his ear, and all these people that say it was fake. You can't fake. Hollywood can't fake that.
No.
And by the way, is it fake to the guy who got killed behind him? Because remember, there were people that died, and Ronnie Jackson's nephew was wounded.
Yes.
There were people that were wounded, and there was a man that died. Two people that died?
I think there was one that died and two that were wounded.
Yes.
One of them being Congressman Jackson's nephew.
Yeah.
Who were wounded. And I think they both. Well, I know his nephew was okay. I'm pretty sure the other person survived it. And then they had the fireman who was killed. He was there with his daughter.
Right.
And he was killed. And it's just so no, it wasn't faked.
Yeah.
It wasn't faked at all. Not at all. Biden announced he was going to abandon his reelection bid in July after the miserable performance at the June debate. And then almost immediately, it was announced that Kamala Harris would be named the...
And this is after the convention, right?
No, the convention was in August.
Yeah, it was before the convention.
Okay.
Okay. And I really assumed that they would hold back and drop somebody in at the convention. They parachute somebody in at the convention. But they didn't. They went ahead and named her. Interesting sidebar to this. Just a couple days before we're recording this podcast, Kamala Harris made history.
Oh, see.
The first female former presidential candidate to publicly announce and affirm her loss. A joint session of Congress had to convene to certify the election. And she, as Vice President of the United States, serves as President of the Senate, and she had to stand there and basically say, I lost.
Yep.
He won.
Well, it's the same as Mike Pence. Well, Mike Pence wasn't running, though. She was actually the candidate,
She was actually the Democratic candidate. She was the nominee.
Is that the first time, you said woman, but is it the first time it's ever happened in history?
I don't know if it's the first time it's ever happened in history, but now she is the first female candidate for president to announce that.
Well, it may have never happened in male history. I don't know.
May not have. I don't know. I haven't looked that deep into it yet, but I just know that I thought I'm like, that's got to sting. Yeah. Well, that's got to sting. Yeah,
subject to correction, but my understanding is, I was listening to a radio show yesterday, and they said that it wasn't even that, or it was. What's interesting is that we've never had, or at least in recent history, an election where a Republican was won, and that some Democrat didn't come up and protest it, challenge it. And this time they were all quiet. Yeah. They all, of course, there was I heard a speech. I forget who the person was, but it was a Democrat that got up and said, "Hey, our side didn't challenge anything. We didn't give you any hassle. We didn't whatever." And then, of course, the Republicans, when we just elected president, the president.
I will tell you, there's a couple of dozen mouthpieces on Twitter that have been going hot and heavy about this was a stolen election. Trump colluded with Russia and they stole the election. I'm like, okay, you prosecuted people for saying that about Biden's win.
Yeah.
And Trump's lost to him in 20. And now here you are. Come on, shut up, sit down, be quiet.
And there's always going to be those people, but Terry, I agree. Terry, you're right. From a national, because usually the candidate, Hillary Clinton is out there screaming bloody murder. Al Gore was out there screaming bloody murder and stuff like that. So
let's see here. August, we had the largest prisoner swap since the Cold War. I don't recall what the numbers were, but
I think it was about 4 or 5. I mean, it wasn't a lot of people, but I think it was 4 or 5 people. But that doesn't happen. Obviously, we don't do a lot of prisoner swaps anymore.
No, we don't. Ukraine invaded parts of Russia, a part of Russia,
right,
accelerating that conflict. We're still dealing with that. And oh, by the way, in just the last couple of weeks, we sent billions more in aid to Ukraine. I want to say there was another 18 or 20 billion that went to the Ukrainians. We just keep giving them money and arms and whatever, with no projection on when this is going to end and how deep into this thing are we going to get. We've provided some very heavy weaponry. Planes, I think, or some aircraft went indirectly to Ukraine through another NATO partner. And then of course the money itself, the cash flow that's going into Ukraine.
See, and that's where I have a problem. I don't believe in sending cash. Now, I'm not against selling weapons, but I use the word sell. Selling weapons. Ukraine is a rich country.
Oh, very.
So, by the way, okay, Ukraine, that's fine. We now own this oil field.
Yeah.
Or whatever. That's fine. We'll provide you a couple of tanks and some bombs and some missiles and stuff like that, but this oil field now belongs to the United States government. The United States people, not the government, the United States people.
Hurricane Helene hit the southeast U.S. in September. Mm-hmm. More than 230 people were killed, tens of billions of dollars in property damage, and a little bit of chaos.
This was what was so horrific about this hurricane. It wasn't just that it hit the places that the hurricane usually hits. It's when it went inland.
Right. It was, there was very little damage, actually, comparatively.
Of traditional hurricane.
Right.
It's the flooding.
Yeah. You think
all
about
the rain that it...
coastlines getting devastated by the surge and the winds.
Right.
But, the flooding was historic flooding.
Oh, it was biblical proportions.
Areas that had never seen flooding like that ever.
Yeah.
Right.
Ever.
And then, a couple of weeks later, the second hurricane.
Yes,
came, and and it wasn't as bad. But
Milton, I think Hurricane Milton. I think it was in October.
Yep.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. So it was. Yeah. It was so sad seeing the pictures when you have these roads that are washed out, and you had people that literally couldn't go help people because they couldn't go through because the roads were gone. The bridges and roads were gone. Mm-hmm. They weren't just hard to pass; they were impossible to pass.
And you can't rebuild all that destroyed infrastructure in a matter of weeks or months. Some of that's going to take years to get rebuilt.
First off, you got to dry everything out. I mean, you got to wait till the water recedes. You can't go start building a road when the water's still blowing through there.
And then you've got hundreds of millions of tons of debris that you're going to have to remove.
Oh, that's
the landscape is altered, and so now you've got years ahead of you of bridge building and road construction. some of that, a little bit of that is recovered, but some of that stuff will take 3, 4, 5 years to get rebuilt.
Crazy.
It's just the way it is. Let's see here. We had also in September, the first commercial spacewalk happened.
I just think I look at that as kind of what's coming, the next evolution, where the whole spacing gets away from what's not 100% dominated by the government and let some commercial enterprises do it. And under the work of a NASA, it's almost like, to me, NASA is almost like should be the FAA.
Right.
We have government control of the airlines to some degree. Right. The airlines don't work for the government, right, but they are regulated heavily by the government to make sure things are safe and that sort of thing, or relatively safe, or whatever it is. And to me is where NASA should become similar to the FAA, maybe with and have some research, but be a partnership where we're not spending just all tax money only to shoot a rocket into space that we're going to destroy.
Well, NASA clearly is not what it was 50 years ago, and it never will be.
And the innovation was there was a lot of innovation in NASA, but they never had the innovation. They never had the wherewithal, or the motivation, I should say, to innovate reusing shit.
Right.
Because it's just taxpayer money. Boom. If it's gone, it's gone. Whereas your Bezoses and your Musks and all those, they have motivation to reuse stuff because that's $3 million. We can't afford another $3 million. Well, let's try to use that. Right.
We got. I think NASA got so heavily dependent on the shuttle program, for example. That's technology that they started creating in the 60s.
Right. But, I mean, they had the right mindset.
Brought it to fruition in the 70s, and we had the first launch, at 80 or 81 was the first shuttle launch, I think.
Something like that.
Yeah.
So it was a 15-year project to get it from development to launch, but then we depended on the shuttle program for decades, and you've got these vehicles. Yeah, we were not reusing the rockets and the solid boosters and all that. That all fell into the ocean and is gone. But we were reusing these vehicles, and the wear and tear on them, the lack of safety in those clearly played a huge role in the fact that we had not one but 2 shuttle crews die trying to get back. One launching and one trying to get back to Earth. Yeah. And I remember you and I were in junior high school.
Terry Hitt. I was in Terry Hitt's classroom watching it happen.
I was in the gym getting dressed.
Yeah.
And when the announcement came across, when Mr. Pope,
we were watching it. We were watching it live because so many people did, because that was the first time a civilian had gone into space, and it was a teacher. And it was a teacher. So there was millions of school kids all over America that they rolled TVs into the classroom,
and they were watching.
And we
sat
there and watched it live.
And then you got to explain to these kids what just happened.
But really, nobody even knew. I mean, they kind of knew, but it kind of like,
well, clearly it blew up.
But right there, you say that, but at first you're really not 100% sure because it's going into outer space. It's kind of disappearing. Yeah. Then you start seeing stuff fall, but the camera, the TV, cut away a little bit. I mean, I don't know that 100% that I comprehended that thing just blew up.
I think
right
nobody.
then.
I think most people didn't, and even the controllers that was announcing everything. It's obviously a major malfunction, I think, is the words.
That's the words they use.
And so, but you don't want to get excited. I mean, they train for this stuff, right?
Yeah.
That's what they do. But then for us as public, we've seen how many up to that point. We had seen so many. However many it was, I mean, they went up and it looked a little weird. And not quite sure in the immediate moment of it. Yeah, you're going like, what's going on? Now, in my case, I was active duty. I was in Arkansas and I was working swing shift. And my buddy of mine came in at lunch and woke me up because I worked the night shift. And so he woke me up and said, "Hey, man, the space shuttle blew up." And I go, "Whoa!" So we CNN and watched it. So
and then you had the Columbia disaster in 2002.
That was when we were
or 2003, and I remember I was working an event at the multipurpose event center. Went back to the station, and we were, everybody's on top of this thing, and I just remember sitting there watching it on the screen and on the TV, going, "Not again! Here we go again!"
Yeah.
And then, and of course that that was reentry, and there were pieces of debris scattered across Texas, Louisiana, I think even Mississippi.
Right.
It
was bad.
The thing just disintegrated.
Well, but on this whole thing of space travel, even the current people, we're going to have an accident. I mean,
sure.
I'm not wishing for it. I don't want, but just like we don't want people to get killed in their car driving it, there are going to be accidents.
Yeah. Law of averages.
And so it hasn't happened, right? We haven't lost anybody that I'm aware of when the commercial
on the
ventures.
commercial stuff, not yet.
So it will happen, and so I think that's one of those discussions that we forget. We get all caught up in the wonderfulness of this cool thing that's going on, and forget. Look, this is dangerous business.
It's like anything else. It's like
we're better than we
risks.
used to be, right?
We take risk, and those people, everybody that got in those space shuttles, while I have empathy for them, they knew what they were going to do.
Right.
It's the same thing as when you fly a plane.
Yeah.
It's not unusual risk to fly in an airplane, but you will never die in a plane crash sitting in your living room.
No, but you'll die of something
But
else.
what I'm saying is, we all take chances in life. Life is a zero-sum game.
Exactly.
We all take chances on our everyday life. You take chances getting into the car. You take chances getting out on the road. There's so many things you take chances in, and you just do the calculated risk.
Well, it's like a meme I saw on Facebook the other day. Your chances of being killed by a cow are slim, but never zero.
Yeah. Well, shark. You'll never get bit by a shark in your backyard.
No.
So unless you go into the ocean, your chances of getting bitten by a shark are zero.
No,
but once you go into their territory,
Oh, sure.
that's their backyard.
Well, but the thing is, though, that risk, you're probably not, you're not going to be killed by a rattler in the ocean.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm getting at. That's what we have to look at it. You're not a victim when I hear shark bite victim and somebody swimming in the ocean. You're not a victim. You got bitten by a shark. If a shark bit you in your backyard, now you're a victim.
And probably he was just curious on what that thing is and wanted to take a taste to see what it was.
Yeah. Do I want that to eat?
Is it edible?
Yeah.
Let's just take a taste.
Is it edible? That's all, Does it taste like chicken?
You reckon sharks think that?
They don't. Well, apparently they don't really like humans. They like seals, and you look like a seal. Let's see if you are, and then that's enough to really mess up your day. Though.
It really is. Yeah.
Right.
There was a second attempt on Trump's life.
Oh.
This also happened in September. This one.
Oh,
this
yeah,
was
we
the one
forgot,
at Mar-a-Lago, was it not?
Yeah, there was a guy who
we
was
have it on
basically
there.
camped out in a sniper. He created a sniper's nest.
Yeah.
And was camped out in a sniper's nest, and he was found out before he could get a shot off.
Yeah. So there's that.
But it really was. There was a guy who was there with a gun in a position to try to assassinate the president. So it really was a real assassination attempt. It just, fortunately, he got foiled ahead of time.
Campbell's Soup Company, 155-year-old corporation, made the announcement in September of last year that they are going to drop soup from the corporate name. They're just going to become the Campbell's Company.
Well, Apple did the same thing. Years ago, they were Apple Computer for so long, and then they just said, "Well, now we're just Apple."
Well, you're making more than computers.
Yep.
Apple.
iPhone, really.
I just think this was historic because it's 155 years old. Apple did that, but Apple's only been around since the 70s, right?
Oh, sure, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, which I agree with you. Same thing. It's impressive, but 155 years, that's a long time to have one name. And
I guess Campbell's makes more than soup. So,
they make more than soup.
I guess it kind of
Well,
makes
a lot of
sense.
these companies have just gotten huge.
They're conglomerates.
And that's,
In October, we had the next hurricane, the Category 5 Hurricane Milton, which, again, destructive, horrible hurricane.
Yeah, and especially on the heels of the one that just happened.
One that just happened.
It's not like there was years in between. There was 2 weeks.
Did we mean to skip that one? Because I think that was cool.
What's that?
The Israel attack.
Oh, we did
I was
skip
going to
that.
go back to it, but go ahead.
Oh, okay.
Israel attacks Hezbollah with a massive pager attack. At least 9
from
people killed, 2,880 wounded, or 2,800 wounded.
That made use of technology in a very innovative way.
That was some James Bond caliber stuff right there.
And logistics, the actual, just the miniaturization of a, it wasn't, these had explosives in them.
Well, and they have to go back to the source. They had to have people on the inside at the plant, at the factory.
Right, they had to involve them to get that all done and get these particular batch of them to the right people and everything. I mean, gosh, in a way though, now I'm just looking at this from an outside viewpoint for a moment. If Hezbollah did the same thing, it would be a terrorist attack.
It is a terrorist attack to them,
right? And it is,
and I don't blame Hezbollah saying Israel created a terrorist attack.
But it was very targeted at the actual people who are performing war. So that's where philosophically, it's like, what are you doing? If it had just been because terror attacks generally are to just broad population,
it's to whom
but
it
not
may
the
concern.
combatants, right?
It's so different than us, the United States, and targeted sniper, using snipers to target
or drones or something.
Nazis during World War II,
or even now when we do drone strike, al-Baghdadi and
yes,
or Bin Laden going in with SEAL Team 6 and doing
right.
Yeah, this was the same thing. To me, this instead of a terror attack, it was an act of war.
Right. Oh yeah. Absolutely.
It was an attack. It was an act of war.
It was a response, obviously, to whatever Hezbollah has been doing, and then they just. But yeah, I just think the logistics and everything, the coordination,
pretty amazing.
Right, and it also reminds me of the attack that the CIA did on Iran back in the day with it's called Stuxnet. Nothing got blown up, but they were able to infiltrate a mining enrichment program,
uranium enrichment,
uranium enrichment, and what they did is that the centrifuges they use, they were able to modify the software to where it spun either too fast or too slow and didn't do the right thing. Yeah. So anyway. Yeah.
By the way, did that bring real quick before we go? Why are we have not done strikes on all the Iranian refineries and basically shut Iran down? I hate it for their people, but god dang, I mean, you're in some ways you're allowing this to happen in your country. You need to revolt against your own, against your leadership. If they're this bad, you need to revolt against them. But I mean, I think that we ought to bomb the Iranian all their refineries and put them out of the oil and gas business for a while.
Yeah.
Well, back to October here, we mentioned Hurricane Milton. Former President Jimmy Carter, who has since passed away, became the first U.S. president to reach age 100.
That's pretty cool.
And shortly thereafter, he passed away. He'd been battling a brain tumor for several years now. Been in hospice care for at least a couple of years, maybe 3, I think. And so he was not in good health. His wife Rosalind passed away a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
So. But anyway, he was the first U.S. president to hit 100.
And nothing happened in November, so.
No, nothing big. Just former President Trump wins re-election by a huge margin. Massive margin.
It was a big margin. It was a big margin not only in the Electoral College, but also their popular vote.
Yes.
And the fact that the Republicans control the House and the Senate. Mm-hmm. Now, this is put up or shut up time, guys.
It is.
We've said this over and over again, and you've said it a bunch of times, Mike, that what happens is Republicans they'll get that ball down the field and they fumble on the goal line.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm hoping with the reelection of Mike Johnson and with all of these Trump people that Trump is putting in their cabinet, that the Republicans are going to do the right thing for everybody. Yep. Look, if you're a Democrat, if the country runs better, you're going to do better. It doesn't matter what your political leanings are.
That's right.
When Joe Biden was elected president, I wanted Joe Biden to succeed. I was desperate for Joe Biden to succeed because I wanted my business, my family, your families, your businesses. I wanted everybody's business to thrive. I want our country to thrive. So I don't care who's the president or who's in Congress. I do care, but I care more about I want them to succeed. When you see that Joe Biden was not succeeding and that the country was going down the toilet and going in the wrong direction, then I want to change. Now, I'm cheering Donald Trump on. I've said this a million times. I'm not a Donald Trump fan. I'm a fan of his politics. I'm a fan of some of his politics. I'm a fan of some of his policies, and I'm a fan of some of his leadership. Yeah. And I hope that this will really be a historic election that will make America better than it is now and put it back on the path to make America great.
If I could say one thing to the Republican Party, it's this: don't screw it up.
That's right.
Yeah, well,
Just don't screw this up.
well, there's already a little bit of thing. They've still got the thing going on between the MAGA Republicans and the rhinos.
Yeah, there's some of that, but they got to get those differences ironed out and get things done.
That's right.
Because frankly, they have a razor thin margin in the House.
Yeah.
This isn't like they've got 10 or 15 votes to play with.
They don't have a super majority, not even close.
Yeah, they barely have a majority.
Barely. And then in December, rebels overtook the Syrian capital of Damascus.
Yeah, and ousted. I forgot. I just lost his name.
I did too.
Ousted their leader, who's been there for a long time, who was had some chemical attacks on his own people. Yeah. This guy was a bad dude. Yeah. Now, I hope it doesn't create a vacuum for somebody worse than him to come in.
Like we saw in Iraq.
What is his name? It's driving me bonkers.
He's going to look it up here.
Yeah.
This was by Ukraine.
No.
Well,
no, it was by rebels.
Well, okay.
It was who was the leader of Assad? Assad.
Yeah.
Fall is below. Yeah.
By the way, I didn't read it. I remembered it before I saw it. I haven't seen it. Is
Radio
it on there?
Free Europe. Radio Liberty.
And then also in December, the United Healthcare CEO was murdered. It was on video. I think he was walking into or out of a board meeting.
He was assassinated.
It was an assassination.
Was that a board meeting or was he going to jog?
He was headed to work. I think it was early in the morning. He got out of his car and I think he was going to a meeting or something like that.
Walking into the building.
This truly was an assassination.
Oh, yeah.
And in the end, the guy's dead. It doesn't matter whether you want to classify as murder or homicide or whatever it is. But to me, murder. You could kill somebody and it not necessarily be premeditated or any of that sort. This was a premeditated assassination. Yeah. And the fact is that people look. I'm not a big fan of the big healthcare organizations in America either. I think there's a shitload of corruption in our healthcare system, and there's a lot of things that need to be changed in our healthcare system. But to celebrate a guy who's got a family, who's got a job, who basically helps employ a ton of people, by the way. Whether you like this guy or not like this guy does a lot of things well.
And nobody's being forced to work for his company.
Right.
Nobody's being forced to work for the companies that provide insurance through them or they buy it.
Or use their services. That's right. And for people to celebrate this guy getting assassinated.
It's pretty sick.
I thought it was. I thought it was a really poor taste.
Pretty sick indeed. Well, that pretty much wraps up the year.
Yep.
And we'll wrap up this episode of Get It Right Texoma right now. So thank you for being with us. We appreciate it. We're looking forward to another year with you. It's brought to you by Eddie Hills Fun Cycles, 401 North Scott, downtown Wichita Falls since 1966. Online, eddiehillsfuncycles.com. MacTech Solutions, 4020 Ray Road here in Wichita Falls, locally known as Finishing Touch Plaza, Suite 3B. Online at mactech-solutions.com. And Lolly and Pop Sweet Shop, Lollie, Lolly and Pop Sweet Shop on Facebook and also online at lpsweet.com. Find us there. So you guys take care of yourselves. Be sure and join us for the next episode. Be sure to share this on all your social media platforms. Visit our website, getitrighttexoma.com. And, of course, we're on Facebook as well. So be sure and like and share this. And don't forget, if you haven't already done so, subscribe to our YouTube page as well. Till next time, y'all take care. We shall see you down the road.